Welcome to the Morning Nerdy News. I'm your host, Gray Falcon. Got lots of interesting bits of information with CES going on, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it and get through as much of this as we can. Probably going to spend a bit more time just hitting the high notes on some of these rather than talking in depth, just so we can get through all of this in kind of a timely manner. All right, so first up, we're going to go ahead and go with the new announcement that came out that Lucasfilms Games' new partnership means that the galaxy's the limit. So what we have going on is Ubisoft is making a Star Wars game. So this is expected to be kind of an open world game. So a lot is going into this. They are still at the beginning stages, so we aren't going to see this anytime soon. But the fact that we are getting a new Star Wars game, and with everything that's been surrounding Ubisoft lately, it's good to know that this hasn't prevented them from being able to get new titles and be able to go in and do something different. And it's also nice that it's not going to be EA for once, because let's be honest, it took forever for EA to get a Star Wars game that really felt right, and that one kind of came down to the last one that they had, and it was still buggy, and that required Respawn to step in and really take the reins in order to get that going. And given all the turmoil that EA has had in the last few years, kind of nice to see this transition. Now, Ubisoft has an entirely different type of turmoil going on up in Canada, but that hopefully won't affect this particular game, so we'll see how that moves forward. But we did get another announcement, and that is Bethesda is going to be doing a new Indiana Jones game with an original story. So here on Twitter, they say development from studio at Machine Games and will be exclusive produced by Todd Howard in collaboration with Lucasfilm Games. It'll be sometime before we have more to reveal, but we're very excited to share today's news. So another big game coming out, and this one going over to Bethesda, and that makes me wonder, is this going to be exclusive to Microsoft? Is Microsoft getting an Indiana Jones exclusive game? That could be a big buy now button for the Series X, Series S in the future. So we'll have to look into that more, but it's also possible that they cut a deal where this has to go on multiple platforms. So we don't know at this point, but this makes a big difference. It's entirely possible that this was signed in contract basically before that had gone through, and they're just now announcing it. So a lot of little things that we'll have to look out for, but very excited about this. If it's done right, it could be incredible. If it's Fallout 76, it could be horrific. So hopefully I'm going to keep a smile on my face and look forward to better things with this, and just believe that this is going to go in the right direction. And then we have a new announcement for a port for Super Mario 3D World on Switch. Will be add online play and photo mode. So if you don't know, this was on the Wii U, and this is being ported over. So this is a little bit of a smaller game world, but a lot of fun. You will be able to do competitive multiplayer with it this time through. So get your friends in, go online, do a bit more. So there's a whole lot that is being added on to this game. So if you've already purchased it, it might be worth a purchase again. However, if you already own it on Wii U, you're not interested in online competitiveness, this may not be worth spending the extra cash if you already have that system and it's hooked up. I know there aren't a lot of us, but we still use ours, and every time we see that Nintendo is just porting the game again, we get a little disappointed that we're not getting something new. Now, I get that a lot of people who already have a Switch don't have a Wii U, and this is going to be the first time to play this. This is good for them. But for those of us who pretty much get every Nintendo system when they come out, this is a little disappointing that we are just getting more of the same again. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and move over to the Magic segment now, where we're continuing on with Kaldheim, and we're going to talk about some of the other cards that have been revealed here. And again, scrolling through white, still no killer card in white that makes us go, hey, we should really be playing this. Right now, Spectre Steel Enchant Creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2, and then you can exile it to bring another back for an equipment. So if you want to do an equipment deck, at least you are getting a way to get some graveyard recursion, even though it's not creature recursion, it's artifact recursion. Even more than that, it's equipment or aura, so it's creature specific recursion. So we'll see how well that plays out, or if that gets used a lot. I suppose if you're someone who has that Sword of Feast and Famine, this might be something you want to get in your deck in order to ensure that once someone inevitably gets rid of that equipment, that you're able to bring it right back. So that'll be a good one in that regard. All right, and we head on down into blue here. And we've got another artifact equipment with Giant's Amulet. Enters the battlefield. You may pay 3 and a blue, so 4 mana total. If you do, create a 4/4 blue giant wizard creature token. Then attach Giant's Amulet to it. Equipped creature gets +0/+1, and this creature has hexproof as long as it's untapped. So that's pretty good. It's only got an equip of 2. One of those things where if you have the mana to spend 5 and then all of a sudden you've got a 4/5 on the board, could be good. It does give it hexproof, but it doesn't really have anything else that would make that giant dangerous as anything more than a 4/5 blocker. Maybe do a little bit of damage here and there, but really I think this is going to be better served as another one of those hexproof things, one of those things like Lightning Greaves, where it's pretty cheap to get out, pretty cheap to equip, and just have it put on something in order that you want to protect overall. And then we continue on down, and we have the enchantment Aura Rune. So if you haven't heard about these, this is one of the new rune spells. And what this does is it enchants a permanent, any permanent. Can be anything from equipment to a land if you want. You can equip whatever you want with this rune aura. And this particular one, when Rune of Flight enters the battlefield, draw a card. As long as enchanted permanent is a creature, it has flying. As long as enchanted permanent is an equipment, it has equipped creature, has flying. So all of a sudden the Lightning Greaves are really scary with this attached onto it. And then you can just move Lightning Greaves wherever you want at any given moment to suddenly give a creature flying. That's a whole lot to take in. That's a lot to prepare for in a game. So overall, that could be really impressive. And then we come down into black, where I don't know that we really got a whole lot in black as far as equipment for being presented. We did get an aura though. So it is the Wither Crown, and what that does is enchant creature. Enchanted creature has a base power 0 and has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life unless you sacrifice a creature. So this could be good. This could be used as a sack outlet. It could also cause problems for an opponent, so every turn that they have to make a choice of lose a life or get rid of something, they have a bunch of tokens. This could help kind of repress some of those tokens. At the same time, if they have a really big creature and that's really all they have out and they need that creature in order to be able to do a lot of their stuff, this could make it so they're just getting that little bit of extra whittle down. It's cheap to get out, so I expect that it will see some play, but I wouldn't expect it to be an overwhelming type of thing that really wins you the game. And then moving down into red. So red, we have Tormentor's Helm. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever equipped creature becomes blocked, it deals 1 damage to defending player. So it's nice. It's kind of I get to attack, plus I get a Timmy, plus I get +1/+1 on there. So overall, it really isn't bad for the 1 mana that it costs you. Really, it only helps if you're playing aggro or regularly attacking with that, but it does give that little bit of extra where that +1/+1 plus you're guaranteeing that you're hitting something to the player, even if they throw a chump blocker up there and you don't have trample or something. So it does give you that. And moving down into green, we are going to see the legendary artifact vehicle, which when Iska's Chariot enters the battlefield, create 2/2 green cat creature tokens. Whenever Isika's Chariot attacks, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. So while the cat things could be nice, and this could be a slow build up really, in order to get those cat creatures in there, where this becomes really interesting is if you have a shapeshifter deck where it's kind of focused on, making copies of really powerful creatures that are already on the battlefield. You could all of a sudden have copies of those shapeshifters with a bunch of really powerful things, all because this allows you to go in and manipulate and create tokens of tokens. And given what we've seen in this so far, there is a lot of ability to go in and take advantage of changelings and different creature types. So this will be a good build-in for this. And then before I get too far, they also have Glittering Forest. I think I covered this the other day, but it's a snow enchantment aura where enchanted land is now snow. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 mana of any color. But I believe we already talked about that yesterday, so we'll just continue on down here from that. That's a regular enchantment. We're not seeing really any type of equipment in green at this point, so we'll just have to wait and see what else gets revealed. I would expect, with how focused on counters and equipment this thing seems to be, that we would start to see more equipment fall in here. Maybe we get a swords reprint in this. Maybe we get something else, because those did just get redone fairly recently. So maybe we get some other new equipment that's really impressive, but we have yet to see what all is going to be revealed for that. And then we come down into multicolored, where we have like the sagas. So there's several sagas. I'm not going to cover all of those. Feel free to read through those on your own time, but today there's just not enough time to cover all of those. We may do that on a different day where we focus in on those. It appears that some of those might still be being revealed right now, but not really any equipment in that to think about. But then we get down into the artifacts, and again, no equipment has been revealed for artifacts. We've got an artifact creature, 2 artifacts that, do their own thing. One that makes things every creature type, and one that allows you to sack creatures in order to search your library for a creature card. And then we have Replicating Ring, which we talked about yesterday. I guess it's a good way to have mana, but unless you are building a proliferate deck, its secondary abilities don't really apply a whole lot. And of course, there's no equipment in the land section unless we have like a special rune land, which that could be interesting, where you have a land that can enchant another land and then you tap for 2, or who knows, but nothing like that so far. But I could see it being interesting to have a rune land. And then, of course, we get back down into the double face cards, where we do know that there is some equipment where, like, Halvar, God of Battle, on his backside, he has the Sword of Realms, which gets +2, +0, and has Vigilance when equipped. Whenever equipped creature dies, return it to the owner's hand. So that's a really good recursion ability to be able to go out, have that get destroyed, and then be able to use the opposite side. We come over to Egon, God of Death, and he has the Throne of Death. At the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card for 3 and tap, exile a creature card from your graveyard and draw a card. And even on the front side, this card is all about self-milling, but he, for 3 mana, is a 6/6 Death Touch. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile 2 cards from your graveyard. If you can't, sacrifice Egon and draw a card. So you can get him out really quick, but he does not have haste, and you're going to have things to be able to get rid of. So hopefully you have a deck that has already allowed for, self-milling before you play him into the game and are able to take advantage of that 6/6 death touch, early. So maybe turn 3 where you can first attack with him, and hopefully you've milled enough in order to allow for that, and you haven't milled anything that you need to keep in your hand or be able to bring back later on. And then we come down where we have Tergrid, God of Flight, and we've talked about hers before, but target player loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. And then you can pay 4 to untap the Lantern. So if you go unlimited with this, you can go through and wipe out everybody's stuff and then go and attack them with your creatures with this type of thing. Not sure how prevalent that type of idea would be, but it is a way to go about using that in order to clear the field and go kill things. And then it also has Menace. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So really powerful creature with a decent artifact on the back that allows you just to wreak havoc and cause some problems. And then we have Torafar, God of Fury. So this is basically our Thor, and he's got the boomerang hammer. So 2 to put out, 2 to equip, and then it's 2 and tap to unattach. And hammer does 3 damage to any target. Return Toralf's hammer to its owner's hand. Sorry, I might be butchering that. But when it is equipped, the creature gets +3/+0 as long as it's legendary. So if you're going to equip this, you have to equip it to a legendary to take advantage of this. And then, of course, on the front side, Trample. Whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess combat damage, Toralf deals damage equal to the excess to any target other than that permanent. So this is a powerful ability, especially if using something like Extinction. There's a lot of red cards that allow for quite a bit of damage, and then you can build on that and really get the most out of that. Things that add additional damage. So all of a sudden 20 becomes 21, 22, 23. Those things can really get pumped up, and it makes a big difference. So you can kill something and then put the excess somewhere else. So that's always nice for him. And then we have Jorn, God of Winter, and he's whenever Jorn attacks, untap each snow permanent you control. But on the backside, he is an artifact. Kaldheim the Rimstaff. You may play target snow permanent card from your graveyard this turn. If you do, it enters the battlefield tapped, and you do have to tap this in order to use that. There's a lot of things that are nice about this, where you could potentially get a creature in at the end of someone else's turn and then have it available to untap and attack at the beginning of your turn if you plan right. However, just be careful with how much mana you leave open, because you leave too much mana open and people will either see this coming and do something about it, or it's also entirely possible that all of a sudden you've got so much mana open you're hurting yourself in other ways because you failed to play something that you needed to on your last turn that could have made a difference throughout other players' turns. So just keep that type of thing in mind. And then we have one last one, Kolvori, God of Kinship, and we'll go ahead and check her backside really quick first. And this is, again, we talked about this yesterday. This is the one that allows you to add mana and spend this only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type or a legendary creature spell. So I'm not going to cover the front side of this. We've already did that yesterday, so feel free to go check out that episode if you want to learn more about that. And that's it for what we're going to cover today on the Magic segment. We're going to go ahead and move over into the tech news now. And over in tech, I'm going to start off with Razer announcing the new Razer Smart Mask. It is designed for comfort with unobtrusive, airtight, and padded seal to ensure proper protection against harmful airborne particles, accomplished by UV lightbox charger that sanitizes the mask at the end of each day. So if you've ever wanted an RGB mask. And I don't know. I guess it could be kind of cool to have the little rings. I'm sure that's all that really glows is the rings around the front of the mask where the vents come through. It's designed so you can see the person's mask. The vents are supposed to allow prevention of fogging and not muffle the voice so much, so they're easier to hear a person who's talking in it. This was released at CES. Unfortunately, this has taken so long. I don't know how much longer this is going to be viable. It could be something that, you know, masks become a regular even after everything ends, or it could be that this is good for 6 to 8 months longer at best, and then all of a sudden we're out of this, things are going back to normal, and they're just rolling out the product in time for it to be a failure. So we'll see how quickly they can actually get this out and running. But I wouldn't expect to actually see this on shelves anytime soon, if at all. All right, and then NVIDIA had its announcements yesterday with CES, and NVIDIA's RTX 30 series GPUs are heading to laptops on January 26th. So what we have heard is that the RTX 3060 series laptops are going to start at around $1,000. They said $999 in their presentation for the 3060 laptops, but unfortunately I was not able to find any announcement of that price. So if you find that price, let me know. Maybe put it over on YouTube under Gray Falcon over there as well, GRAY_Falcon, when this goes up over there. And you can let me know if you were able to find one of those. But the lowest I could find was over on Tom's Hardware, where they talked about $1,099. So about $100 more than what this is for that starting price. So we'll see if that price actually holds up, or if that's more of a, there's one laptop that's done it at that price. It was a very limited run just to say it exists. And the reality of it is in order to even make it usable, you're going to have to do upgrades. So it's possible that it's rare that anyone buys that base model. We'll just have to wait and find out. And we also got pricing for the GeForce 3060, which offers ray tracing for $329. So over in their presentation, they did a lot about DLSS and their new resizable bar, so it allows for a direct memory connection between PCI Express from CPU to the GPU frame buffer all at once. So it's kind of like smart access memory in a way, where it's just giving faster information and technology communication back and forth. And they also introduced dynamic boost for laptops 2.0. And really what we're seeing here is that they are making it so it can now adjust the power not only between the GPU and CPU, but also the memory. So they can put more power into memory depending upon what's necessary for better frames per second. And then there's also a whisper mode. And the whisper mode is basically just designed to adjust things to keep things quieter. How well that'll actually work is probably going to be up to individual manufacturers and to how they implement it. I wouldn't expect a whole lot of performance difference between Dynamic Boost and Dynamic Boost 2.0, and I also wouldn't expect there to be any noticeable difference in Whisper Mode 2.0, but we'll wait and see once we start to see reviews drop out there. Like I said, all of this always comes with a grain of salt. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that any of this information provided to us by the company should not necessarily be believed until we see it done by testers. Now, on the plus side, we did see like AMD come out and present actual data that was closer to what people actually wanted, and a lot of their information confirmed to be true for their press conference. But then we also saw where Paul's Hardware Unboxed, he was told, you're not receiving NVIDIA products anymore because you don't review the product the way we say it should be reviewed. So really grain of salt until we get the full truth on all of this. And then over on AMD side, there wasn't a whole lot that was actually announced during their thing, but the big thing that we do have information on is AMD's Ryzen Threadripper Pro CPUs and WRX80 motherboards coming to consumer segments in March of this year. So The information we have is 64 cores, 128 PCI Express lanes, and 8 channels of memory. So if you are looking for a work machine, or hopefully the problems that have been resolved in the past with gaming can still apply to this one, we could potentially see some super powered CPU based game performance. And I mean, I don't know about you. My son still loves CSGO. I'm not a fan of that game, but if he heard that he could get something like this, and this, if it were worked properly, could give him 3,000 frames per second, he'd be like, yeah. Just a lot of information in here on this particular one. The AMT Pro Security layers built-in security technology features to help protect your sensitive data. They also cover manageability, they say, for simplified deployment, imaging, and management that is compatible with your current infrastructure. And again, this is very business-based, so not really a gaming thing unless you are a high-end gamer. And you have to have the best of the best of the best, and maybe you also do production on the side. But business ready, 18 months of planned software stability brings peace of mind, and 24 months of planned availability for a stable enterprise. So this is more just their services that they're offering with this. And I'll click through here. It talks about professionals for workstations. So kind of thing that I would be excited about if I were, going out and trying to design something new, going out and doing things as a structural designer, or trying to do a concept piece. This would be really great for that. But even this is kind of overkill for the type of stuff I do. So it'd be unlikely that even I at my level would need something of this nature. This is probably going to be aimed more towards Hollywood types, big production pieces. I wouldn't expect to see this in a lot of your typical business applications for design, unless the place you're working for just has that kind of money to throw around. But that's going to be it for today. Thanks for hanging out. If you haven't, remember to click the follow button here on Twitch. If you are over on YouTube watching this, make sure you click the subscribe button. And that is GRAY_Falcon. So the exact same as here on Twitch. And then follow me on Twitter as the Gray Falcon with underscores between those. But that's it for today. Till next time, have a good one.